Hey YouTubers, Becky here, rolling with the Davises, coming to you this week from Grand Tetons National Park. We set up camp in a National Forest Service campground on May 8th, 2025, and started our adventures from there. We came across this huge bison herd on our first trip out to explore the park that day. We've been to the Tetons before. The first time it was at the end of July. The other times have always been in the fall after Labor Day. We've seen wildlife in the park. We always see bison. But boy, did we see a lot more wildlife this time than we ever have before. Unfortunately, the bison hadn't started calving yet, so there's no little red dogs laying out in the field. The most exciting wildlife we saw was this grizzly mama and cubs. We only saw 2 cubs. Apparently, she had 3. The other one was just out of our sight when we took the pictures. This was my first grizzly bear sighting. I do want to talk about a couple things while you all enjoy the pictures of some of the other wildlife that we saw while we were in the park. First thing I want to talk about is when we saw these grizzlies is the way the rangers were telling everybody to move on, don't stop. Everybody goes to the park to see the wildlife. It only takes a few seconds for everybody to get a chance to stop and snap some pictures. I understand they don't want you sitting there for an hour doing pictures and video. I also understand that they don't want the bears pressured. But you know what? If that bear's feeling pressured or stressed, she's going to take those cubs and move on. Second thing I want to talk about is unfortunately 2 of these cubs were killed by a male grizzly. I think about 2 days after we saw them, something about the female does not come into heat as long as she's nursing cubs. Apparently, if the males get a chance, they will kill the little ones. The pictures and video that you're seeing here were all taken in the area of Monroe and the Teton Science School. We just spent the evenings driving around to see what we could see. We saw this moose on Moose Wilson Road as we were traversing it one day. The antelope and the bison we saw on our way back from Yellowstone. They were actually in the same area where we saw the bison a few days earlier. The bison decided they were thirsty and wanted to get to the other side of the road, but they didn't all cross at one time or just hurry across. No, they were a traffic jam. They actually stopped traffic for a good 15 minutes before we could get through. But that's okay. That's just the kind of things you gotta expect when you're in the park. We saw this elk and this moose at Blacktail Palms. We went into this Florida to Alaska excursion that we were on thinking that we were going to be really budget friendly. We were going to spend our time hiking and biking and kayaking with our own kayaks. And up until this point, that had worked out pretty good. But things were a little bit different in the Tetons. More about that in the next video. I just could not come to the Tetons and not float the Snake River. We've done it before, later in the year when there was a lot less water, and in fact at one time our oldest son was a guide with one of the expeditions on the river. So this time we hooked up again with Triangle X Ranch and did their float trip down the Snake. We met our guide Sean in Moose and were shuttled about 10 river miles north to put in and float the river down.
There's our new cookout site. Yeah, because that cookout channel on the ranch is totally dried up. It doesn't flow anymore, so we can't launch boats there anymore. So Mark let us move up to this spot. Yeah, that's working out pretty good. Yeah.
Triangle X does a dinner float on certain nights of the year during high season in the summertime. Be sure to check it out if it works for your schedule.
I'd be a little much in the kayak.
Oh, in the kayak? Yeah, it might be a little much in the kayak. You don't have to say cheese, it's just filming. So as you float downriver, you are getting closer and closer to the Teton Mountain Range, and the scenery just keeps getting more and more beautiful. Halfway down the river, it became our turn to ride at the front of the boat. Wow, that scenery was something else. And then we had a chance to get our own selfie with the Grand Tetons in the background.
Well, we've never had three boats. So you can hear a lot of rocks in this area. Yeah, we've done for 5 miles. We got 5 miles more to going to see a lot more of the downstream of the river. We're going to see a lot more sign of beaver activity. I'll show you that bald eagle next towards the end.
We did do this on a windy day, but that other noise you hear in the background is the silt and sand in the river actually abrading against the bottom of the boat. Huge shout out to Sean here. He was very informative and answered all of our questions while keeping us all safe on this river that seems like it can change on a daily basis.
I'm glad Sean's in charge here. This water's moving really fast, and there's a lot of snags in the water.
He makes it look so easy.
And then here on our right, you'll see some really crystal clear water coming in. Yeah, these streams come in. This is part of Cottonwood Creek, which is the outflow of the City Lake. The Cottonwood Creek is the outflow of the City Lake. It's pretty clear water that comes down the lake. It's not muddy like the river. Yeah, you can see an eagle in that nest there, off to our right. Don't see any little baby heads popping up, but I bet you they have had their young is probably hatched by now. Yeah, here's the main channel of Cottonwood Creek. Yeah, these are smart eagles because they nested really right here next to Cottonwood Creek. You can see the fish.
Hi everybody. I'm not somebody that's always got a list of my favorite this and my favorite that, but I gotta say Grand Tetons is one of my favorite national parks. Maybe not the favorite, but one of my favorite, and this is one of the reasons. Just look at that view. We have been here a few times, but never when there's still snow. There's even still snow in this parking lot. There was a bus that just came through a turnout. Ran through snow. We ran through snow to get in here. This is amazing when you come in from the east into the park and you just get slammed with the view. There's no foothills up and down that you can't see the mountains for. You just see the Tetons. It's amazing.
With all the time we've been to Grand Tetons National Park, I don't think we'd ever stopped at the dam. We did stop this trip. I just found out it was built in 1907 and replaced in 1910 after the original dam failed. Park was not established till 1929, so this water was used for irrigation on the farms in the area up until the time it became a national park. And as always, let's keep rolling.